104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. We now head out to San Antonio because the big fundamental is calling it a career. Our friend Jason Minnix down there at ESPN San Antonio. Jason, first of all, thanks for making time. And second of all, what kind of impact does Tim Duncan leave on this sport?
Huge. And probably, reading all the great tributes, all the different write-ups, that Jack McCullum piece on Sports Illustrated. You see all these players tweeting about Tim, and they're tweeting to him, and they don't realize apparently that Tim Duncan doesn't have Twitter or Facebook or any social media. But you as a guy that has covered his career through the entire 19 years of it, and always kind of feeling like, I wonder if people really understand and appreciate how great he is. You saw that yesterday, the impact that he'll have on the NBA, the impact that he'll have on San Antonio, the legacy. It's one thing to say, okay, Pop, you don't have Tim, what are you going to do on the floor? That's fine, but he is the foundation for the Spurs culture that you hear about so much. It's inside the locker room that Pop is going to have his biggest challenge, trying to find somebody to carry that load.
Jason Minnix with us now. Jason, you bring up that interesting point. He's resisted that athlete persona, no Twitter, no Facebook, no nonsense. For us outside of San Antonio, he's the big fundamental. He's almost an afterthought. It's like you see him on the court, you go, oh yeah, he is one of the great ones. What is he to San Antonio?
Everything. He really is San Antonio. You think about, David Robinson, George Gervin, they laid a great foundation for the San Antonio Spurs. But, as a guy that's been here my whole life, more or less, San Antonio was always good, but never great. In 1979, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, has a chance, but they don't get it done. Some of those Gervin teams in the 80s were good. David Robinson, you think about the Houston Rockets and Hakeem Olajuwon abusing the MVP in 5-0 in 1995. But Tim arrives in 97. They win their first title in 99, and it changed San Antonio. Then he flirted with Orlando during free agency. Had he left, my guess is the Spurs would not be in San Antonio right now. There have been, different groups that have tried to buy him. The Maloof brothers were going to buy the Spurs and move them to Albuquerque. Then, they were going to get the new arena. If they didn't, they were going to go to Baltimore. If Tim Duncan isn't here, neither are the San Antonio Spurs. And the great city of San Antonio is El Paso. That is Tim Duncan's impact on this community. Championships, the legacy of greatness, that is all Tim Duncan.
Everybody know this was coming, or were people hoping that he would hold out and maybe retire after another year?
A lot of hope that maybe he does have one more. I mean, you look at statistically last year, Tim Duncan had a very, very, very good year. There were times when it looked like he was, done. Other times where you thought maybe he's going to be able to give it a go for another season. He opted in. All right, well, does that mean he's coming back? No, it's a formality, but he did opt in. And while we all kind of felt like it was it, I remember at the last home game at the AT&T Center, I took a picture with my cell phone. I just wanted to, if that was the last time I was going to see Timmy on the court, I wanted to have a photo of it that I took. You kind of knew. But still, the reality, when you got that press release Monday morning at 9 a.m., it was 8:59 a.m. when that email got sent out, it did hit you like a ton of bricks. And, it hit San Antonio that way. I mean, we had guys, grown men, calling our show yesterday that would literally choke up or be in tears. You had people all day saying, I couldn't go to work. I was crying so much because Tim Duncan retired. He has that kind of an impact, even though we all probably knew it was coming. Could be surprised, but hard to imagine. I mean, guy's been a part of our lives for 2 decades.
Jason Minnix from ESPN San Antonio with us right here on 104.5 The Team, Levack and Wolf. Jason, you know him way better than we do. There is some speculation that if Kevin Durant had signed with San Antonio or even went back to Oklahoma City, that maybe, just maybe, Duncan would have stuck it out for one more year. Do you see any kind of validity to that?
Well, we'll never know. I mean, but if Kevin Durant would have signed in San Antonio, then yeah, Tim, I mean, let's go for another year. But also, if Kevin Durant signs in San Antonio, Pau Gasol probably doesn't end up signing in San Antonio. And Pau Gasol is Timmy's replacement at center on the basketball floor. And, that's one thing about Tim Duncan. Hard to think about a pro athlete. And, I don't want to rip on Kobe, but let's use Kobe as an example. Kobe leaves the Lakers, and they're a dumpster fire right now. Tim Duncan, after 19 years, leaves the Spurs in better shape than when he arrived 19 years later with Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, his replacement at center, and Pau Gasol is on the roster. They're good to go. It is safe for Tim Duncan to say, okay, guys, I'm done. You guys go win without me, and they are set up to continue winning. Now you look at that super team out west in Golden State. I don't want to say everybody's playing for second place, but the Spurs are set up to compete and still compete at a high level and compete for championships.
Jason, tell us a great Tim Duncan story. I mean, you've covered him for so many years. Give us one of your favorites.
You think about Tim Duncan, everything you've ever seen on a podium, interviews you see in the locker room, and he'll come in the locker room, and if you miss him, he's gone, and he's learned how to talk in 25-second sound bites. Tim Duncan has got such a great personality that most of the world has never seen. He's the locker room clown. He's a prankster. He loves playing paintball, loves working on his cars, loves video games. Somebody asked yesterday, what do you think he's doing right now? I'm guessing he's playing Pokemon Go somewhere, with his kids. And he does mixed martial arts. He will kick your butt in a hurry. He's just got a fantastic personality. And, I think about Tim in, media sessions is one thing, but the couple of times I've had interactions with Tim away from the basketball court when there's no microphones and there's no cameras, and you see that Tim Duncan, dude's a riot. He's the kind of guy that you just want to hang out with because he's just a dude. When you're not talking basketball with Timmy, he's great. When you're talking basketball with him, you got a 20-second soundbite that's all cliche.
Jason Minnix of ESPN San Antonio with us right here on 104.5 The Team. So, Minnix, we've got this Tim Duncan character. Like, there's guys you see walk off the court, walk off the field. You go, all right, that guy's headed right to ESPN. I don't see that for Duncan. Do you see GM? Do you see head coach? Do you see just riding off into the sunset?
Riding off into the sunset. He loves basketball. He loves competing. He owns a paintball facility here. He owns a car shop. You want a customized car? You go Blackjack Speed Shop, man. He'll wheel it out. He's hanging out at a body shop somewhere. Basketball wise, though, I could see him doing some one-on-one work with some bigs. I could see him going over and helping the Spurs to a degree. I don't see him being an assistant coach because that would mean he'd have to wear a tie and dress nice, and that ain't Timmy. He ain't going to do that.
Yeah.
Although he'd probably get away with wearing whatever he wants on the bench, even though the rules say that you're supposed to be in a suit. But I don't know that he wants to get on a plane and go to 41 home games and be gone for 5 nights and home for 2 because his kids are getting a little bit older now. I think. You look at like David Robinson in this community has opened up a school and has several big-time businesses. David Robinson's in the community. Timmy will be in the community, but in a very different way. He doesn't like the spotlight. You got a press release that said Tim Duncan retires. There's not even a quote from Tim Duncan in the press release. Not even a quote. No press conference. Greg Popovich is going to have media availability this afternoon at 3 o'clock Central Time. Timmy ain't having a press conference. There's no world tour where every arena honors him, and it's the last time he's going to be in this city or that city. Tim Duncan doesn't want that spotlight. I remember when he got drafted in 1997, and this is a story that's been told in San Antonio quite a bit over the last 24 hours because all the media guys here that remember it, or the guys that were working for the Spurs organization that still do remember it because it was just so damn funny, is, Tim Duncan, number 1 pick out of Wake Forest. He, plays all 4 years. He graduates from Wake. He gets to San Antonio, and there's this huge rally in front of the Alamo in downtown San Antonio. And, he arrives with the Spurs staffers, and he asked Tom James, the Spurs PR guy, who is still the Spurs PR guy, what's this? Is there some festival going on? Is this a carnival? And TJ said to Tim, no, man, this is for you. And he said, why? And that is just Tim Duncan. And you got that celebration coming in, San Antonio, and fans want to throw him a celebration like that. They'd love to, we get a gazillion people saying, hey, man, let's have a river parade for Tim Duncan. Tim would rather have needles in his eye than be on a river barge floating down the San Antonio River with everybody cheering for him. Just not his style.
Jason Minnix from ESPN San Antonio with us right here on 104.5 The Team. So is Kawhi Leonard the heir apparent? Is he the next face of the Spurs?
Well, I mean, and that's one of the great things about what Pop and RC, the general manager, RC Buford, has done with this organization is, you've got Kawhi Leonard, who has developed into one hell of a two-way player. You added LaMarcus Aldridge last year in free agency. You pick up Pau Gasol this year. None of us really thought that they really had a shot at getting Kevin Durant, but you at least got the meeting with Kevin Durant. Next year, they're going to have a ton of money to spend in free agency when that cap explodes, so they're going to be set up for years to come. Kawhi is going to be the player. I don't know who's going to be the captain, who's going to be the leader. When you think about what Greg Popovich can cuss out and coach up Tim Duncan because Tim allows that. And so every other player on the roster over the last 19 years have seen Pop light into Tim Duncan. So if Pop lights into that player, what's that player going to say? Coach, you can't yell at me like that. If he yells at Tim Duncan like that, he has allowed Pop to coach him, unlike so many other superstars. Be the glue in that locker room. Next year, Manu Ginobili is going to be the elder statesman in that locker room. And then Tony Parker for a while. But at some point, who's going to be that guy that's always in the right spot at the right time? Even if his game has said, he's a step slower to get into a spot, he knows where that spot is. He's a coach on the floor right now. LeBron James said this year, one of the things that's made Kawhi such a great defensive player is look who's behind him. And that is Tim Duncan. Now, that wasn't a slight at Kawhi Leonard. It was a hell of a compliment to Tim Duncan, who is just always in the right place at the right time. You see him constantly coaching up guys. You go back and watch any Spurs game, and if Timmy's on the bench and there's a timeout, he's the first one up to greet everybody as they're coming off, knowing Boban Marjanovic is about to get his ass chewed by Pop because he missed an assignment. Tim's there to, hey, man, it's all good. And then after the butt chewing, he's right there to help him up. I mean, that kind of stuff is what's going to be interesting to see who picks up those parts of what Tim Duncan has meant to the team inside those four walls.
Jason Minnix from ESPN San Antonio. I can't wait to hear the quotes from Pop today during his press conference. I wonder if it'll be a warmer Pop because he's talking about Duncan, or if he'll chew you guys out just for fun.
He'll chew some people out just for fun, just because that's Greg Popovich. And quite honestly, I'm guessing, because there was a lot of talk. Well, why are they waiting until tomorrow to do this press conference? Why isn't it today? There's been a lot of reports, although the Spurs have not confirmed this, that the press release was going to come Friday. But in light of everything that happened last week and the shooting in Dallas, they decided to hold off. But nobody knows where Pop was yesterday. But if I've got fans that are calling the show in tears, grown men crying, you hear that kind of emotion from fans, Greg Popovich knows them best. And Greg Popovich has been with this guy for 19 years. Maybe yesterday was just too emotional for Pop to have any kind of media availability, so they put it off till today, and my guess, Pop will be a little bit snarky as a way to hide some of that emotion. But my guess is, talking about Timmy today, he's going to get emotional too.
Jason Minnix, ESPN San Antonio. We appreciate your time, man.
Thanks,
Anytime,
Jason.
guys. Appreciate it.
You got it.